Hello, welcome to the Gang Music Demo Derby. Thank you all for coming and thank you all for submitting. Without further ado, let's just go ahead and get started. A quick intro down the line of who you are, what you do.
I'm Jason Hayes. I'm a music composer. I've been in the game industry for 20-something years, and most of that time at Blizzard Entertainment, but now I'm at a new independent developer in Tennessee called Trega Entertainment, which is brand new.
That's cool. I'm Paul Lipson. I'm the Senior Vice President of Formosa Group in LA, formerly at Microsoft Xbox Studios, and also been in the industry now 20 plus years. God, we're old. Old people.
Old.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Marty O'Donnell. I'm audio director, composer. I did Halo and Destiny, and now I have a new company called Highwire Games. And you should also know that when you get sick next week, it's because I was patient zero for
Seriously.
the GDC. So
I'm sitting next to Marty.
I don't
for
usually
you
have
guys.
this low, sexy voice. So.
And just to give you guys a heads up of how this all works, we have the order of participants here. The order was based on the submission time and when the person submitted their thing into the Dropbox.
Oh my gosh, how many?
So we have 30 total. We're going to try to get through as many as possible. Each person has about a minute, and the panelists will give you hopefully about 30 seconds to a minute of feedback to kind of get things going. Everybody's numbered on the list as you go on, so if you do need to step out, you can pop your head back in and see if when and if you're coming up. And without further ado, let us go ahead and jump right in it to the first person, Brian. Cool, thank you. And we're just going to go ahead and jump into it, no preamble, and we'll just go straight into the music, and we'll critique it as follows. Cool. Jason, take it away.
Hey, I thought it was a really nice piece of music. I think your B section, it really springs to life because it sounds really nice. The brass sounds great when that part comes in. I thought that it was really good. It had that kind of, it's divided into those chunks. You get a certain number of bars, and it goes to the next number of bars, and that's fine, but it seemed like it got to where as soon as I can kind of predict too much the feel of it, and it feels like it gets into a certain pattern, then it destroys a little bit of the, I can't wait to hear what's coming next. And you dropped into something where you kind of feel a little bit more of the pattern there. But I thought it was really cool. Nice bass line.
Thank you.
Yeah, so just building on what Jason said, so this is a tough one. So you're kind of doing a swunk kind of thing, right? You know what I'm talking about.
Even I don't know what that is.
So that's swunk is you're trying I'm going to say trying to swing because you're sort of swinging, but you've got this sort of backbeat. Now this is there's a lot of good things, but I'm going to just focus on some stuff to tighten up. So probably got to put my jazz hat on here. I agree with Jason, like your horn spreads and everything, that was nice. I was waiting for those to open up, and they did in the B section. But if it's not, the groove has to be there, and it's really your eighth note conception. So if your eighth note is too much like dotted eighth to 16th, and you're riding the horse a little bit, which is somehow, some of the MIDI can do that, you really have to straighten up your eighth notes and make it swing hard, and then when you kind of funk the swing part, swunk aspect of it. That's a technical term, by the way.
I learned something.
I learned something too. I love it.
It's important. So for me, the groove element of this was over 50% of the experience you were kind of presenting, because there was a lot of repetition in the melody, and there's some things that you could have changed up. But if you're going to really swing, like that has to swing, and that means like 1941, go back to Bird and later, and get your eighth note conception really tight and get your swing really, really tight. So those of you that play, or those of you that know jazz at all, if you're going to do that, you're going to get someone like me going way crazy in that. Just me personally, it's massively off-putting if it's not locked in. So your groove and your swing conception, and if you're going to do something jazzy or jazz-inspired, that is something you really want to tighten up, and get live players too if you can for that piece of it. But again, great job on horn spreads and getting some interesting texture. There's some mixed stuff you could look at too. But for me, it was the rhythmic conception. Your harmonic and melodic rhythm need to be a little tighter. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I thought it was more a fwing.
That's a good one. I haven't heard that. Swing. It's almost sound design.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool. I liked it. I agree with Jason also that it got just a little bit like predictable when the changes were going to break, even if you had a little turn around of something that changed it up. And I was looking forward to hearing it sounded like you were going to do some sort of improv piano thing there. We were just about to hear the good part. Yeah. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was cool. It was a neat sort of Warner Brothers, bum, ba, 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 da, 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 and like it reminded me of that mechanical, fun Warner Brothers thing, plus a cool, modern backbeat thing. So nice job.
Thank you.
Cool, good job.
Swing.
Next up, Gonzalo. Did I say that right?
Gonzalo.
Gonzalo. All right. Ready? Cool.
I thought it was a really good feel-good kind of a feeling to it. I also like the fact that your arrangement, it feels open. It doesn't feel super congested with tons of stuff, and I like that about it. I could kind of breathe and stuff. And, it's interesting because you had that feeling in 6, and then when you got to the new section, it still was, but somehow you kind of turned the beat around in a satisfying way. So I thought that the style of it and the kind of happy feeling I liked a lot. It's really nice. Thank you.
Yeah, I liked those organic textures you had. I think got to tighten up your drum programming there. It was really busy. And there's some other people who are just as crazy about like swing feel like I am. They're crazier about drum samples, and there's a lot of busyness. I mean, but you had a really distinct, if you're going up for a kind of a 6/8, there's all these subdivisions and things you could do, but you can pull it all back down in the mix and make it sound a little bit more subtle. My only other comment is your kind of A section melody was a little just sort of meandering. There's a couple spots where you didn't resolve harmonically in the melody, so you may want to rethink that from a clarity standpoint. Try to be as succinct as you can. Just pull notes out. What's the essence of that melody you're trying to say? Because there's a lot of, it almost sounded like it was halfway between an improvised sort of solo and an actual melody. And I think at the first I thought, oh, he's just sort of jamming over the changes. But then I was like, no, that's your melody. So I couldn't decide which one it was. So if you can tighten that part up, you're going to grab everyone back in more so they have something really hold on to.
Yeah, it's really good. The production is good. I agree with everything these guys said. I feel like, as far as the mix goes, it feels just a little too compressed to me. It's just sort of all up here, and I feel like, especially with, the feel of acoustic instruments, it's like everything just seemed equal loud, and that I just felt like it'd have more space in dynamic range. So, nice job.
Thank you very much.
And Thomas Soto.
You should let me go first next time. Otherwise, I'm always gonna just copy
Thomas?
what you say.
Thomas Soto.
Reverse the word.
Okay.
Going once. Going twice. Gone. That could not have been any more perfect. Andrew Edwards.
I should have listened. To
Andrew Edwards.
Yeah, gotta be here.
Going once. Going twice. Let's see what this one does. Not there a little bit. John. There he
Yeah.
is. All right.
There he is.
I'll start this time. Very cool. I like the sort of exotic feel to it. Once again, I just feel like everything's a little bit too all up at the same level, except for the little vocal part. Was that you?
Yes.
So don't be embarrassed of your voice. I mean, I want to hear it. So, I think you could have brought some other stuff back in the mix and let your voice come out and then let some of the other stuff come out. And then what was the lead instrument there? The
Soprano
soprano?
sax.
Did
Was
you
it a
play
real
that?
soprano or is it a?
Yes.
It was, okay.
Is that you?
It was my wife.
It was your wife. Okay, cool. Yeah, it was hard to tell that. The bizarre thing for me is I don't know if it was the way it was mixed or compressed. It almost didn't sound as live as I was hoping it would. But I was on the cusp of not knowing if it was a sample or not, which is not necessarily a good thing, right? I just think it needed more dynamic range and air and space and stuff, and it would have stood out better. But it was very nice. The whole thing was a cool feel. Although I'm not sure about the clapping on left, right, left, right, left, right. That called too much attention to itself. It didn't feel like it felt sort of integral to the rhythm. So that's just of course, I'm hearing it on headphones, so it was very obvious.
Yeah. Well, just to echo what Marty said, I think the vocal element was beautiful and it grounded the melody, and it was nice to hear your wife playing soprano. I was going to ask you if that was you playing. Are you a Pat Metheny fan at all?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay, of course you are. So, from a mix standpoint, you've got to listen to those from an angle of mix. Pat's a hero of mine. I play.
I worked with Steve Rodby.
Yeah. So, that's a great sound, and it's a beautiful sound, but it's a very established sound. But one of the things that Pat and that group has solved, and also Pat in his other groups have totally solved, is the mix, as Marty was saying. Great inspiration. It's actually the first time in a long time in a demo derby I've heard someone with a very clear, inspiration in that. And that's where I come from. So I love that. It was immediately drew me in. But props for the live instruments. But again, I would echo what Marty said, is that work on your mix and work on creating an organic space for your voice and for something like the soprano, because it's the more natural it sounds, actually, is the better it's going to be. And you want some key click, you want some breath, you want some little embouchure shift or whatever. any of that stuff you can capture just makes it sound just, more like a piece of art, rather than a compressed brick of a sample. But great. Yeah, I really liked it.
Not much to add to that. I would just say that they mentioned that the vocals could have been louder. I agree. The thing is, if you've got that same situation we talked about earlier, if you have, here's a set of 4 bars, and now we're adding a new thing, and in this case it was like the vocal, that's fine. But as you go to repeat something that happened before, that stuff becomes so much less important. If we've heard it, it's like it's just automatic, right? The listener says, okay, I know this. And so we're really hyper-focused on the new thing. And so it makes it more apparent that new thing should be taking center stage, because that's what we want to do, is we want to pay attention to the new stuff. And the stuff that's already happened just becomes a background bed. We're just kind of waiting for that new thing. So anyway, I thought it was a nice feel. And your wife's a good player and you're a good singer, so that's nice.
Thank you all so much.
James. All right.
Okay, I'll go first.
I'll go first.
Oh, yeah, you go first.
No, you
All right.
start fighting.
So, yeah, overall, I had a hard time focusing on what was important. It was a sort of this epic feel, like I'm the epic orchestra doing an epic thing. But there's nothing I can really take away from it. It's like I don't know what to focus on. And one of the things now, just from a pure mixed, let's just go from a writing standpoint. It's like it just it didn't take me from point A to point B. It didn't give me a sense of some sort of shape and a journey. So I would work on that. And the other thing, just from a mix standpoint, is I take some reverb off of it. It's just too much reverb. Everybody was loud and everybody was in the reverb. And for some reason, I don't know, I wasn't hearing any bottom end. It was just like very, very thin, trebly sound. So I would need, if you're going to be epic like that, you want to really get some bottom.
Yeah, I would echo that. Mix, wow. Yeah, you really need to get someone to work with you to work on the mix. Sometimes you get so close to your own music, it's better to just say, hey, this is my friend and he's going to mix this for me. It's an important relationship to have because we get precious about things. From an orchestration standpoint, though, I mean, you had a lot of really sawing away high strings with the brass underneath that, and I mean, that's just not how it works normally. I mean, you want to really spread that out, and you have to understand maybe the function of those instruments, less from a sample standpoint and more from a human, like, how does the orchestra naturally mix itself? Because if you were writing that and then you went to go to record that at Fox or Abbey Road, it would not sound that way. I mean, I think the last piece would be I want to take away the story, and I can't remember the melody. You have to either pull me in with some amazing harmonic motion or rip out some great melody, and I'm like, oh wow, singable. I'm in the shower, tomorrow. Yes, I do shower. Why am I talking about this? I want to be singing that melody. So I understand the intent, but again, in the drive maybe to be epic, it kind of got lost, as Marty said.
The only thing I'll add to it is that, You can tell, and I'm not a great mixer. I really am not. I try to get someone anytime I can because I'm not great at it. But one thing I've found is that, with the reverb like that, you have this giant sense, I'm doing this big, epic sense of space. The sense of space can really be accented with the difference between something that feels a lot drier, and then when you hear this really wet thing with it, all of a sudden you get the sense of like, oh, giant space. And hearing both those things at the same time, I've been amazed at how much it can really add to the sense of depth to a situation where you have, some things in the mix that are a lot drier than other things, and then it gives you that big, massive sense of space, which, you don't have because there's so much reverb in this.
Yeah, and just one last quick thing, sorry. If this was dropped into an actual game, an integrated product, there's no room for any other element of the game. So if I was looking at this functionally, we'd have some challenges there too. So just something to think about. Yeah.
Cold.
What I got from it, it's like I could tell there's this kind of rhythmic intensity going on, and you could tell that's what you're going for. And the percussion hints at that intensity, and the parts are moving along fast, but it sounded really mushy. It's like the parts didn't really have any bite as much to really feel like it's also, you want the propulsive, rhythmic propulsiveness happen largely with your instruments, right? And the percussion becomes a little spice to add a little extra. But right now, it's like we're relying so much on the percussion to give you that bite, and I didn't really hear any of the intensity. The instruments just sounded way too mushy to me, but I like the intent you're going for.
Yeah, and maybe this is the theme for this derby that we're starting to kind of see now, is mix is important for everybody, and melodic rhythm and melodic clarity. Because your choice of lead instrument, which was a very exposed sampled violin, is not what you want to do. Get a real player to play that if that's what your choice is. Or call John, who's on his phone. Hi, John. He can play something for you. Sorry, I'm shaming you with the phone. But I'm also giving you a compliment. It's so schizophrenic. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you like that? Everyone's like, oh, I'm awake now. It's okay. You can all be on your phone. I'm on my phone too. No, but in all seriousness, that I think this is what, we've heard a couple submissions now. We've got to work on mix and clarity, exactly what Jason said really succinctly. But melodic rhythm and how you're articulating your melody is key, and then the choices you're making for lead instrument, because you kind of, having that exposed sampled violin, your samples are showing. I can see your samples. Like, zip it up. It's kind of not like production doesn't matter. It's like, no, it absolutely does. That's an opportunity for you to find a violinist somewhere in your neighborhood somehow, and just grab them off the street, give them lunch or her lunch, and say, play on my thing. So.
Yeah, I echo what these guys are saying too, but I would also question the thickness of the micropulse instruments and percussion. Like everybody who's playing those, the fast 16th notes or 30 seconds, whatever you wrote it in, there was just like almost too much of that busyness, and I think it would have been more effective if you traded off and different, choirs of instruments. Like now the cellos are doing this, and now just the percussion's doing it. It just, because that was the propulsion. and it would let some of the melodic stuff stand out more. And the only other thing I would talk about is the harmonic rhythm started to get predictable. So I knew when the changes were going to come. And sometimes when you see that you're doing that and you've got every 4 bars, you go back to this harmonic rhythm, just physically make one half of a measure and one change 2 measures or something. Just do something physical to change it up.
That's another theme that we're seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The repetition.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very. Everyone's so dull. Look at my bars. Yeah. Cool.
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 Good job.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Jared. There we go.
I thought it was really fun and cool. I mean, you have a situation where you've got the vocals, and I think part of it is like a small ensemble, but the other issue is you've got like one voice that kind of rises above everyone else, and I'm sure the intention is not to have like one leader in that thing. You want this group of like, oh, we're chanting, we're singing, and I got a lot of just like the one voice coming up over the top, which made it sound a lot smaller than what this kind of in its heart seems like it's a big. So anyway.
Oh, Jared. You twisted little man. No, I'm just kidding. What an awesome, what a great. I mean, I was totally drawn into it because, again, immediately just the organic aspect of having the vocalist, whether it was mixed or not, and I agree with Jason, but I mean, I would have just heard that and said, all right, Did you write that? I mean, what's the language? What is the?
It's Turkish.
Turkish, yeah. I mean, super cool. I was just like, wow, I'm scared. I'm gonna, which is good. That's a good thing. I really liked. You took some bold choices there. I loved just having that organic element in your piece immediately drew me in automatically there, and it kind of covered up for some of the like questionable samples you had underneath hiding the little synthy, like, oh yeah, it kind of popped out at the end. I'm like, oh, what is that? But I like the dynamics. You did change it up. You had a great writ at the end. I mean, you kind of composed to the time. We have a specific ask for this demo derby, and you took it seriously, and you literally tied it off with a nice writ at the end of your piece. So all of that was great.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was cool. It was fun to hear. The emotion of what you're trying to get through just spoke immediately. So that was very cool. But there was halfway through, you like brought in like the big low boom thing, and it just didn't have any impact. I just needed way more bass. It just could have been much more powerful when that came in. So, bass drum, temp, whatever, it's just something that just really had some bottom end. I just didn't hear that. And I want to compliment you on the retard at the end because
Nice.
if I have a theme for especially young composers, it's like get away from your sequencer's metronome. Like, at least half of all music in history does not have a steady tempo. Like all performed music, all conducted music, I mean, everything, all the music breathes. And I just feel like we're all so used to working with sequencers, and the first thing we do is get a click going. And then the music just ends up being mechanical. So I appreciate that you retarded at the end. did a retard.
Yeah.
So, nice job.
Oh, and just one quick note, little public service announcement, and this
Yes.
is a compliment to Marty. Marty recently released some very
Oh, yeah.
raw videos that were audio sort of videos on some of his thematic development on the work that he did recently for Destiny. And what's a compliment, he's sitting right here, so I'm going to say nice things, but here's a bunch of sunshine. And again, these are some gorgeous themes that I adore, you know, are very powerful themes. But what is so cool about that is Marty literally does exactly what he was just telling you to do, where it was very much like listening to him organically find some of these themes. And if you've played as much Destiny as I have, you know, it's like all of it is there. And the continuum from the concept all the way to how it was fully integrated in the game is a masterclass in thematic development. So
Thanks.
if you, you know,
Thanks,
I'm
Paul.
saying nice things to you, but mainly because it pertains specifically what he just said. It's like he's walking the walk here, where you can go online and say, wow, here's someone making these melodies and finding them. They're organic, they're flowing. It's all about how the emotion is there and the emotional pull. And all of it is out of this DAW constraint, which is probably the most important thing.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Just to follow up on that I would recommend everybody who is used to sitting down at a DAW and starting with a metronome, don't. If you improvise for a while on whatever instrument is your instrument of choice, and then when you start to have something that starts to come into focus, hit the record button. And don't worry about tempo, don't think about anything else. Make sure it's breathing and you have rubato. Because unfortunately with our technology, that's actually more hard to produce then, because then to keep that rubato all the way through to the final production, you have to work at tempo maps and you have to do all sorts of technical stuff, and it's just so much easier just to, it's 120, it's 132, and everything is quantized. And so that's what's great about having live players, is that there could have even probably been more breathing sort of in the piece itself before the retard. So, but good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Sakuragi?
Oh, I didn't know you watched those. That's great.
I'm a fan.
Oh,
Ready?
Hi. I love how your beginning is just grabs you by the throat. You're just saying, here's the intro. And it really does a great job of setting up an intro. And, you know, it's kind of protracted intros, and you're waiting for what's coming. And so when you actually go into the main thing, which, you know, is too short in the 1 minute to really get into the main thematic idea, I mean, you're ready for it. And I think you did a great job of setting up that expectation. So I thought it was really nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, stunning. I'm a huge fan of that. It actually brought me back to some of my some older scores, like what they did for Macross with the Israeli fill and some of the other melodic scores that kind of started that way with a strong feminine vocal element. So, wow, I was not expecting that at all. So, super pleasantly surprised. And your compositional choices were very idiomatic but very fresh. So that's something that immediately grabs you. You know, if I was listening to this on a stack of, 50, 100 demos, which is often the case, that's what Jason said. I mean, you punched me right in the face on the very first note, which is exactly what you want to do. So congratulations. It's a really beautiful piece.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I want to hear the rest of it,
Yeah,
so
me
it's
too. I don't want it to
very cool. Yeah, one of the things I actually was pleasantly surprised with is the, I didn't know where it was going to go. Like, it just kept sort of, it wasn't predictable, which is really, that's what makes people want to keep listening. So nice job on that. Can you tell us a little bit, do you mind telling us just a little bit about the production? Are you singing, or you got people, or?
I'm singing the chorus part.
Okay. Oh, excellent.
Yeah, I
Nice
recorded
job.
by myself.
Yeah.
So nice.
So, well done. So
Thank you.
congratulations, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I'm good. Still in my
Felix.
first box of water.
All right.
I guess I'll jump in on this one. Are you a Vangelis fan? Yes. Okay. That could be a good thing or a bad thing. Yeah, so I mean, it was interesting. Everything old is new again, right? I mean, I heard these like rototoms from the 80s. I was like, wow. So it was a really interesting broad piece, but those kind of ARPed, pads that you had, it is kind of derivative, which is okay. And it's okay to have inspiration. It's okay to kind of say, this sound or this kind of piece is what I was really going for. I would just caution folks to notice that in their own writing and then make a conscious effort to move away from what you love. It's really hard. I mean, when you're a player, we love players, we want to emulate certain players, and I'm doing this because I'm a player. I love this guy, I love this person, I love this woman, I love this, whatever. If you love something and you want to emulate it, that's an important thing to do, but you have to kind of move away and find your own voice. And for me, it was a little derivative from a certain time. I'm that old, so I can say that. So I liked the piece, but it kind of distracted me because, I felt like you were really, I wouldn't say you were aping something, but it crossed a little bit of a line for me where I'm like, ooh, it's a little too familiar. The other thing is that dynamics, this might be what these guys are going to say, but there could be more interest and more dynamics, in texture and harmony. You can change it up. I mean, you have a very short amount of time to take us all on a journey. So nice piece, and there's some really interesting textures. The percussion, again, I was either going to love it or hate it. I was there when that was a thing, so I'm like, oh God. But that's not your fault. That's my problem. So, but yeah, I would think about, just make sure that your own voice is predominant. A wink and a nod towards something you love is great, but if it's a full-blown like, look, I can do this person or this thing, it's dangerous because in games we'll get the real thing. We will. We'll just call whoever we need to call for that sound. So, yeah.
Jason?
I thought it was a really nice, mysterious vibe, for sure. I mean, you set up the things where you got this thing, and you have like a lot of space. This thing, and like a lot of space. And that's cool, because it sets up a mysterious kind of a waiting. But, I'm interested to see, will there be something in that space that comes up there? Because, for a while, it's kind of nice to have it just, it breathes, but I think there's an opportunity there to say, well, we could fill up that space in the second half with something else. But to give you a sense of, kind of suspenseful mystery, I think it's cool.
Yeah, I agree with both these guys. I would say that once I start expecting that downbeat every four, long four, 2 bars. I was hoping at some point you would change it up and not give me that same thing again. So it's the when I know what to expect, like you want to sort of set up expectations and then change up sometimes. And I know you don't have that much time to play us something, so maybe it does more changing up later on. But like I needed it already by I was listening to it. So, but other than that, it's just some cool stuff.
Cool. Great job. Nick Mastrovito. Going once, twice, and next. Cyril, come on up.
I don't know. Yeah, let me just say a couple of things. First of all, whatever the meter tempo is, it's like I like sometimes when you start a piece with an intro and you don't know what the meter's going to be, or you're thrown off a little bit. But I don't know if that was on purpose or not. So that seemed, your very intro just seemed slightly confusing to me.
In terms of the meter?
Yeah, I just didn't know where we were. It's like until you started with everybody else.
Yeah, that was on purpose, actually.
Okay. And then it was either a synth sound that was in there or it was something that was distorted. It sounded like I was hearing some clipping. There was like a very distorted, was it a synth that you have in there? Or
What was that low sound that was
On the
it was
down-
a
Oh, that was the drum sample, I think.
drum sample?
Yeah.
Because it sounded like it was overblown and clipped.
I was
Did you
definitely
put
hearing.
distortion on it, or was it supposed to sound
No,
like that?
no.
Okay, it sounded
Oh,
like
okay.
it was
So
clipping.
you had some literally technical stuff in there where it was like overblowing our headphones to the point where I was like, "Is this clipping?"
Yeah, yeah. First I thought it was a synth with a lot of sawtooth or something, but,
Yeah.
so it was definitely distorting. So.
Yeah, I would just echo what Marty said. I had no idea what was going on rhythmically. You really need to be clear your intent rhythmically because it kind of wasn't sitting in the groove, and that's enough to kind of take us out of the experience. And then not only from a mix standpoint, but either your stems or how this was balanced, there was some frequency problems, and you had your low end was just totally clipping out in our headphones. So, yeah, definitely check that out.
Okay.
I don't think I have anything else to add. I mean, well, I think that the kind of the grand casa on the downbeat seemed like it was just all the way to triple forte or something, which is a great idea to do it, but it seems like, well, maybe there wasn't the justification to have those big recurring, kind of moments, and it wasn't really played as this big, it just seemed like it was there as a big triple forte thing, but it didn't seem like we had any justification. We're like, oh, here's the big thing, and bam, it just seemed like it just started hitting on all, and so yeah, I think the intention was a little bit confusing from that standpoint.
Candy. All right. Ready? We're just making you more nervous as you stand up there.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Was everything live in that?
Yes.
Yeah, it was. It really comes across nicely, and it's like it's a good example of like, well, live instruments really can bring something to life in a way that you just can't do. Especially, you think about music like a Philip Glass thing, where it's like minimalist or something. If you did that on keyboards with metronomically, it would become so boring instantly. But suddenly, like with live instruments, and they're bringing their own thing to it. So I think, and it's also interesting how a small ensemble can sound really big just because that's what you're focusing on. It's just the whole world of the piece are these strings. So it's a really nice piece.
How much of that was you playing it, out of curiosity?
I actually didn't play any of it this time because I have dogs next door that bark
Oh.
incessantly. so I hired 3 friends to play for me.
And that is the biggest win of the day. Congratulations. Everyone take note.
Yes.
Hire your friends, because dogs.
Yes.
What a beautiful, elegant, evocative piece you've shared with us today.
Thank you.
And elegant pizzicato, great arrangement. One of the biggest wins was your responsorial writing and the conversation between the violins and then being answered in the cellos. That kind of antiphonal writing is like, for me personally, like so huge win. Like that's winning, win. So thank you for sharing. I'm going to be emailing you because I want to hear the rest of that piece. Thank you very much.
Congratulations on getting the most wins from Paul today.
I don't know. Isn't that what the kids are saying?
Oh,
I know. I was telling my friend the other day, like my son, I have a 7-year-old, almost 7, and he told me to get wrecked the other day. Yeah. And then, I'm going to say this at GDC on camera, okay? My almost 7-year-old also said, he said, "What are you, a default skin?" That's what he said to me. Yeah. It was such a sick burn, and he said it with a straight face. So, anyway.
wow.
Okay, I'm oversharing. Already?
No, it's okay.
Somebody winning.
But you are winning. It's not default skin or whatever.
That's I've never even heard that one. That's good.
It's a Fortnite.
Oh, Fortnite. Oh, geez.
I could do some of those dances.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really cool because I didn't know, I couldn't predict anything, and it was just had a really sweet feel, and the string writing was really nice. And I love hearing live strings because of you hear when you're crossing the strings and a little extra harmonic pops out by accident. Like it's just like with choir, and you hear the people breathing, or woodwinds and you hear breath, and guitar you hear sliding on the strings. Like that stuff just is. Don't get rid of that. It's really great to be able to hear those little things that just make it feel real. And I mean, it was real, so that's what's so nice about it. So, good job. Yeah, it's really cool.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Juan. Is Juan here? Going once, twice, and next. John. Yikes. John Parra. 1, going twice, and next. Stephen Wheeler. Oh my gosh, it's 3 in a row.
Wow.
Stephen Wheeler. Guys.
Failed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, apparently. All right, well, next. Jacob Elliott. There he is.
Yeah, there he is.
It's our time man.
Yeah,
All right.
good on you.
Marty, do you want to start?
Sure. Yeah, that was really cool. I really enjoyed that. That was, it's got the whole ethnic thing, but it still sort of has a modern feel to it, and it was really nicely done. How much was, besides the vocal, what was going on in terms of instrumentation?
Some drums, yeah.
Well, how much was
and
live, I guess? I was
hammer
just curious.
dulcimer,
Yeah. Was that you playing hammer dulcimer, or?
all samples. Yeah.
All samples.
Yeah.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, that was neat. It was nice when the sort of feel changed up when the percussion came in. That was well done. Cool.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, I love writing idiomatically, especially non-Western modal systems and things like that. Tell me about the vocalist. That's
So that was sample.
sample.
Oh, really? Okay.
So in
So
that
like
case,
ethnic
which
samples,
was beautiful. May want to check what she was singing. Just sort of a Geopoly check. That's a video game thing. I've seen things ship with like, oh my God, wait, what were they singing? And then they like pulled it off shelves. So just a random thing. It would have been nice actually to clean that up, because I know, you put some processing there, there's some chorusing on that I don't even think you needed to do that. It was almost like sometimes when you chorus things, it's like putting Vaseline across the sound. Just the natural sound of that would have been great. But love the groove. Love when you kicked in with your perk. Definitely some different instruments. I mean, I heard some oud and some.
Yeah, voodoo. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it was more of a sort of a tabla bass.
Djembe.
Oh, it's djembe. Okay. Yeah. So it was kind of like 3 countries in one.
Yeah, Indian, Middle Eastern.
Yeah.
It's Comanche, there was a couple different hammer dulcimers that were like Middle Eastern.
It was some sort of a tar.
Sitar? No.
No, not sitar, but a tar, like a Persian, like an oud sort of type of instrument. I'm just curious.
I would have to check on it.
Yeah. Ethnomusicology is super fun. It's winning.
You only get one winning. Yeah, great kind of ethnic feel, and it's interesting how it starts off with you just hanging on to every note, because that's the way it comes up, and then everyone perks up when the percussion really started kicking in. So it's neat to really look at like, wow, what is it about that all of a sudden, because you want these moments where just people are like, ooh, and you definitely had that there. So it's a really nice piece.
Super cool, actually.
Yeah,
Jerome?
I'll let you guys talk about it. It's really, really nice arrangement, and it's beautiful music. It's interesting how you have, the sound of a wind instrument combined with, whether it's some kind of mallet, a vibraphone, or whatever. It's like, wow, it becomes a new instrument. It's really nice colors. Yeah, really well done. Thank you.
Yeah, it was a great evocative opening. Love that kind of natural six that you had. Strong sound. I would have loved to hear you double that melody in the B with a vocal, just someone singing. It would have been extra emotional. I'm not going to say when. I won't. No, it was no, I don't mean like, oh, that was terrible. I mean, yeah. I think your modulation was a great decision too. That was really nice. I mean, that just stepped the whole thing up. That's one of the first sort of prominent orchestrated modulations I've heard today, so that was really nice to hear. And I liked how you tied off the end, because you had a set amount of time. So, great job.
Excuse me.
Don't cough on.
Sorry. Yeah, that was very enjoyable. I really I liked it. I loved hearing the breath and the flute, so that was nice, like I said before. And strong melody. It's just so nice to hear a strong theme. You know, don't be ashamed of the strong theme, and it was really, really well done. Nice job. Yeah, I know. I've already drunk so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Jeff. All right. Quick and easy.
I thought it was really an evocative sounding bed that you had. I think what happens is that I'm waiting for the thing to, like, you know, say, okay, now we're off. I mean, as a piece of music, it sets a mood for sure. But I'm looking for something that's going to say, okay, I want to basically have something that's going to, like, take me somewhere. I felt like there was a lot of this kind of maintaining a holding pattern. Again, evocative mood and feeling to it, but it didn't seem to move much.
Yeah, just to echo what Jason said, it sounded like you were in a death state or a heightened damage state in a game. Like if you played Deus Ex out of Eidos Montreal, and you took a lot of damage. That's the cue that would play, saying, "I took a lot of damage," but then it didn't stop. It would have been awesome to have you set that up and then boom, like round down the mix and actually take it somewhere from an arrangement standpoint. It was a cool sound. It was actually a really relevant sound. There was one thing, though, that happened probably just past midway in your piece where you sort of modulated down and you dropped to the sort of essentially the 2 of your, which would be sort of some sort of a sub-5 kind of thing. And you hung on this sub-dominant 2, but then nothing else changed around it. And I was totally confused as to what was going on harmonically.
Okay.
Was that intentional or?
Well, I really did want it to be ambiguous, but if it's too jarring, then it's not effective. So.
Yeah, it was definitely ambiguous, but without intent behind it. I just didn't hear the clarity and the ambiguity. That makes no sense. Trademark, you heard it here at GDC. Paul said clarity in his ambiguity. I'm sorry. I want to publicly apologize. What I'm trying to say is that I understand the intent, but if you're going to drop and move the piece down there and then rotate tone around it, you actually take the wind out of the motion. You kind of are sabotaging your own intent, if that makes any sense. I hope that is being clear to people listening. But yeah, if you're going to make a move, make it a very clear and very concerted, move, because that was, modulating down too is also a weaker harmonic motion usually, especially in the low end. There's other ways to modulate, so maybe half of your harmonic content is moving up and you're creating an open juxtaposition that way. But the whole thing just kind of went down a whole step and then hung out. And I was like, oh my God, what's happening? Is it going to resolve? And then time was up, so yeah.
Yeah, overall, I mean, what I am looking for in composition is something that takes me through more than one emotion. So it was monochromatic emotionally. It was like, this was it, and that's what it was the whole way. And to a certain extent, you don't have to have a huge change in emotion, but it felt too much like a bed that something else was going to come in on top of and start giving me melody or something else that was going to change it up. But like, it just sort of like, once the first bar was done, I knew what the emotion was going to be, and it would have been really refreshing if you had, the transposition didn't really change emotionally for me, so I didn't really go on any journey. So that's what I would prefer in this piece. Yeah.
Cool. Lawrence Lee.
Very cool. Let me go first, 'cause I've got to go to the bathroom. So I'm going to go first, then I'm going to leave you guys extend for me, would you? Hey, nice job. That was a lot of fun. That was just really fun to listen to. Some really nice choices. It's very evocative of a sort of style that I could see fitting in. And it kept doing nice little changes. It was really cool. This is one of those pieces where, going nuts, where every 2 bars, every 4 bars is what you sort of expect, which is okay. But you kept changing colors enough that it made it interesting for me. So, nice job. All right, so.
All right.
Just
Yeah,
keep it
we'll
going.
cover for you, bro.
All right.
Yeah. Good luck with that. Yeah, so I guess to echo what Marty just said, slowly. It was. That's a cheap joke. In all seriousness, I mean, it was very in the style. It was very, specific. It had a definite kind of, throwback, and it had sort of a size to it that was very intended. So I enjoyed that. I would have loved to hear more low-end management in it, and I was kind of waiting for it to drop. And then when it dropped a little bit later than I was hoping, it didn't drop enough for me. So the key to keeping interest, other than the individual textures themselves, because you didn't have a ton of tracks in there, but you have to have massive dynamic range and really jarring. And you have to spend a lot of time building up to your peaks and then hitting those drops really, really hard. That creates the drama, that's the tension and release. You can, in that case, you're playing more with frequency than you are with like an overt melody or some kind of intense harmonic motion. Your harmonic motion is your structure is pretty simple, and it's more about the groove and the dynamics and the feeling of those instruments. So I would triple down on the amount of dynamics. I mean, literally go boom, total silence, and then rise up, and because you've got this stuff just kind of sawing away, and that can get very repetitive, and in games that's one of the biggest dangers, is to it gets fatiguing. If I had to play a game and listen to that piece for over 30 minutes, I'd probably be a little fatigued. So you have to think about that.
I think it's interesting because it's exactly what Marty said. But, you do have, okay, here's a section, and then here's a section, and then here's a section. But what's so nice is you did change it so much. Mm-hmm. So each section had surprises, right? I mean, at one point your bass line is like, doo-doo-doo-doo, all kinds of stuff, and later on it's just ba-do-ba-do. And it's, and the melodic material was really nice. I could instantly grab onto it, which is good. You want something you can hang on to. and you did a really good job kind of offering something. It's like, oh yeah, I know what this is. So I love your change from section to section. I mean, I was really enjoying hearing the different things you did, and it was a really fun piece. Cool style.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Should we just keep plowing through? Or?
We should probably do that. Logan, you can walk slowly to the mic. All right.
Like, it really jumped out to me how amazing that piece would sound if it were performed by live instruments. I mean, it would just come to life. It would be so, so cool. And something as, as sparse like that, where you have this kind of like, you hear every instrument, and I like that about it. But boy, it would just be, the impact of it would be just through the roof with live instruments, because that's how exposed it is. But it's a really, really nice piece. I liked it.
Thank you.
Yes. Everything Jason just said. All of that has to be played by live players. And unfortunately, and I'm saying unfortunately because it was a good piece, there's a couple melodic places where I'd want to tweak your melody a little bit. The intent was there, but there's some stronger, especially handling your fives motion, and you've got a lot of chromaticism in there. But you got to be really careful with your voice leading. There's one section in particular, sorry I didn't have my pencil and paper, but you were actually again descending dangerously, but you didn't resolve back up. So it weakens the intent. And if you're going to create kind of a 5-1 structure and actually move down harmonically like that, it's got to be really strong to keep pushing it forward. And then that was coupled with the fact that you needed all live players, to do that. I think that would be your next step for this piece is do another pass just to tighten up some of the motion and then work with a live ensemble. Yeah.
Thank you. So, sorry, I didn't hear enough of it, but what I did hear, it's like, I might disagree slightly. I think you can probably get away with sampled vibraphone and stuff, so, but anytime you have reeds, just hire a reed player, because I've been trying to do sampled reed solo things forever, and it never works. It just, you can always hear that it's a sample, so that's about all I heard. Although it sounded like it was about to kick into something even cooler, so.
The whole piece was about 2 minutes long.
Oh, sure, gotcha.
Exactly twice.
Okay.
Well, and I'll be honest with you, I'm glad I didn't hear the next half because I heard you start to kind of get into the swing, and I was like, oh, God. I'm sorry, it's a personal thing. It's like I'm so crazy insane about how things feel with swing feel. So,
Fair enough.
So I would also caution.
He's a swinger.
Yeah, again, full disclosure, I have 2 degrees from the Newell Conservatory of Music in American music style. So I'm just personally like, oh my God, here it comes.
What are your 2
Please
degrees
swing.
again? Schwing and
Yeah, schwang and schwang.
Yeah,
Is that-
schwing.
Right, and that's
Swing
where,
and swung.
Swing, yes.
No,
and that's where having live players would also help a lot, I imagine.
Oh, of course. Yeah. You're going to get, someone's going to be on the right side. And then again, you want to be careful to try to swing with kunga. The most you can kind of do is, gaga, dat, kunga, dat. But if you're going to have someone like, hey, I'm going nuts on my kunga, it gets a little, that may be what you're going for. But the feel of that is going to be so important. And what you were writing was so idiomatic and so in the style of something specific that you want to make sure that some of those pillars, especially the rhythmic pillar in that, is really strong too.
One thing I've found with trying to get a good feel, especially when you're using a sequencer, is just physically move the notes. Don't quantize, because especially with a swing feel, sometimes there's no perfect way to get that human feel using any of the quantize settings. There are some swing quantize that's like kind of close, but like then everything gets a little too perfect. So like you can just move the notes to where the downbeats and the important beats are, but then let the human feel, even of your own playing, go ahead and stay in the performance.
Good job.
Yeah,
Very much.
really cool.
David going once, twice, and sold.
Oh.
David? David Russell? It's you? Gotcha. Okay, sweet.
Oh,
That was abrupt.
don't abruptly end.
Right on the five.
That was really cool. Compound meters are sort of my thing. I love compound meters, so that's great. I actually made some money doing a compound meter, I think, at one point. The Halo theme, anybody? Okay. Yeah, so really nice clarity on the orchestration and stuff. And I'm glad that towards the end, you changed up the harmonic rhythm, so it did something I wasn't quite expecting, which was very much of a refreshing thing for my ears. I would say that with a compound meter, for some reason, it's probably the worst. It's like like if you can even on some of your micropulse accompaniment stuff, do some extra changes on that, like some hemiola and some other things that just every once in a while comes in just to change it up a little bit. Otherwise, it becomes, and trust me, I struggle with this at times, but like everything becomes like a jig. And you know, suddenly it's river dance, and you know, it's like you sort of like, you don't want to necessarily go that far.
I remember Riverdance.
But really nice sounds, and the mix was very good. So good job.
Yeah, I would absolutely echo what Marty's saying.
Okay, then don't talk.
Yeah, I'm not going to say much more other than more dynamics. I mean, you could have doubled down on having even more separation, because when you did create that event, that, as Marty called out, that was like, ooh, cool, we're being taken on a journey. I was like, "Arr!" You know. I don't know if that was your intent, but that was,
It's a much longer piece. And
Sure.
it's
Yeah.
just the
yeah. It sounded like it was a
get
nice
going.
big section of, you know, and that makes perfect sense. But it's nice to hear your writing. Clearly, you know, you understand some orchestration, you're understanding separation, you understand some frequency-based mix stuff. So it was really cool. I would just say, you know, it'd be great to hear even, you know, more just dynamics and even more event in there, because you know you've established the, you know, you know, you can add, you know, 2 extra measures, and you can kind of stutter, and you can kind of make it sound like, okay, I'm scoring a picture, I'm hitting an event, just add a little bit of an extra. Not hard to do, but yeah, it was great.
I don't have anything to add to that. That was really good. Orchestration sounded really nice. of the Firebird wind sweeps and stuff. It's really, really nice stuff. Yeah, it's good.
That's cool.
Cool. Bear with me for 1 second. I seem to have made a mistake in the order there. Simon Poole's name was up on the screen, but his slide isn't there. So I'm going to just play his file here. Simon, are you here? Yeah. Awesome. I do have your file. Sorry about that.
I'm scared what Paul's going to say. He's like, oh, the scrutiny of the swing. Hey, you know what? I think it's cool for what it's, you put these different disparate elements, but I mean, I've said before, I think I'll say it again. Basically, having 1 minute and saying, oh, I'm going to hit these different styles and like turn on a dime. It's like, knowing that you can do these disparate things really well is not nearly as interesting to me. You only have 1 minute. Just let's hear an idea get kind of developed. But I think you did a good job with the segments you had in there.
Yeah, I'll go second so we don't get the swing lecture.
God, everyone's so scared. I was going to say I liked it.
That's what I was going to say first. So in terms of, we've got 3 demos for the price of 1.
Yeah.
I agree, though. I would love to have heard that first thing go for the whole minute, believe it or not. And I'm sure it is that long. But I was really started getting interested in it. And obviously it's like the change was like, I thought, wow, was that on purpose? And I realized, oh, you're giving us the range of things that you can do. And it's great to hear that you can do all that. And specifically, the first thing was very interesting. I was really sort of interested in the colors and the performance and harmonic movement and everything else. So I wanted to continue on that journey. And then suddenly I was just, Birdland. I mean, it was just, it was like, wow, this is great. And I thought your swing was great. So it was really, really
And
well
I
done.
did too. Gosh.
You had winning swing. So.
To be fair, that was their swing, not
Yeah.
mine.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yep, good point. Fair
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, so nice production all the way along. But in terms of you as a composer, it's only a minute, so we can learn a lot about who you are in a minute. But basically what I learned is your facility in different styles in production, which is great, but I'd still want to hear something more fully.
I'll keep it brief. No, like the swing. Well, most importantly, though, I like your close voicing movement in the horn. You've studied, so I like that. I mean, it's nice to just hear someone, okay, I'm going to write some horn writing. And the opening, I agree with Marty. I like your kind of close seconds on the left hand, and you had that kind of evocative, kind of feeling. It was nice that you took this melody through a journey of different styles. But I have to agree with Jason. It was a little jarring. And I think that your opening and your second, I actually wanted to kind of hang out on in Birdland there for a while. But the third act for me wasn't as compelling. So I think, to Jason's point, as far as this exercise and kind of what we're doing, it might have been more successful to just take your one thing and, get us completely hooked, and then, then you can show us all the things that you do. But I appreciate the horn writing, and I liked your swing feel. I liked the swing feel, everyone. Come on.
Side note, that was the Cuphead ensemble, so they had already been quite warmed up from that production.
Yeah, I mean, it was tight. It was tight.
Yeah, it was very good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Cool. Great job. Nate.
Hello. Very cool.
You want to start on that one, Paul? It sounds-
Yeah, man, I had a giant grin on my. You made me feel like a young, fresh teen again.
I'm so glad.
I mean, that's weird.
Yes.
No, so not your music the way I was feeling. No, all seriousness. I mean, I was just like grinning and smiling, and I was like, wow. And the crazy thing is you went like full Tron on me, like in the middle. You know, I was like not expecting. So I was kind of vacillating between this, like you had this great pop sensibility, and then you were like, oh yeah, and look at this craziness over here. So, I mean, I don't know what to say other than like I had a giant grin on my face and it had such a fun feeling. Totally unique sound. I've never heard.
Thank you.
I mean, I haven't heard anything like that.
Okay.
So you have a really unique voice. But there was some humor and some lightness in obviously your writing, but you know, there's a bunch of depth and you took a lot of interesting compositional chances. So.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that was
super cool.
super fun.
Right?
I mean, it was like, it was fun all the way. It had a certain retro feel to it,
Yeah.
but it wasn't retro.
Right.
It was nicely mixed. You know, I felt like I heard everything I wanted to hear, so. And plus, I liked the changes. Like you kept surprising me, and you took me on a journey, and you got into the sort of hemiola section where I'm like, oh, there's the hemiola I was looking for. So that was really fun. And then coming back around to the end, it was like, yeah, that's the way it should be. So nice job.
Thank you.
Really fun, really nice, lively. You know, it's in that kind of the style of instrumentation. You know, sometimes you had like, here's the thing, I've got the main line, then I've got this answer, and sometimes the answer ended up being a similar timbre, and so it didn't sound as much like,
Right.
oh, it's a very different thing that's answering. It just sounded like it was like another similar sound, and I thought it could have been more contrasty in that.
So
But then
very-
toward the end, you had the totally different kind of bell-like things, which I thought was really nice.
So-
Anyway, but it was, I mean, that was nitpicky. It was very, very fun, very, very cool.
So just vary up the synth a little bit on the call and response?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have any specific influence or drive or story?
You
behind
know, I really like 80s synth pop.
it? I can tell.
And it's also inspired by like classic Genesis platforms like Sonic and
Yeah.
et cetera.
So I wasn't crazy.
No,
I was here.
not at all.
Retro.
Yeah.
Oh, you were your teenage years. Okay.
I said I felt like a young, fresh teen.
Yeah.
That's on tape.
You just said it
I
again.
said it again.
I'll quote you later.
For what it's worth, thank you for evoking that in me. I had a
Thank you
week.
very much.
Barmay? Barmay, going once, going twice. And Ben Hicks, going once, just kidding.
Surprised people will submit it and not show up.
I know, that's a little whack.
I think some people just, you have to have a pass to get in, like an expo, or not an expo, you know, audio conference and so on. So some people don't have that, unfortunately.
Oh.
So I think that's part of the reason. Marty, you want to start? Sure.
Yeah, I got a chill. That was really nice. Great dynamic range. The feel was really nice. You took me on a journey. It's like all the things I was, other than rubato, you hit all the things that I would want to hear. You have a really good sense of orchestration. Can you tell me about the performance? Like, what was that?
So that was originally I guess just a track that I'd written for some trailer music album that I was working on. And I just bought like a sample library, Rodope from Strezov, and I just really wanted to use it.
Yeah.
So I tried to find a track that would work well with it, and it worked pretty well, I thought, so.
So the vocals were sample
Well,
library?
I retooled a lot of stuff to
Sure.
make it work. It's not even.
Well, whatever,
that
you,
close,
you,
so.
you used all of your stuff to the maximum of its sound. I mean, it would be even cooler than to do that whole thing live, but it had a really good, full feel. I like the feel of it. I'm gonna give you one, my voice. Okay, I'll give you one small criticism, and it has to do with something that I hear a lot of, and I've fallen into myself. I call it two notes music. Two notes music. It's where you have a melody, da 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 da, but to make it more energetic, you go da 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 da. Two notes, two notes, two notes, two notes, two notes, two notes, and it's sort of like I'd rather not know that that's what you're going to do. So like sometimes only just do the one note, do a quarter instead of 2/8, or move. Don't repeat the same note. Start moving up and to keep the micropulse going. But it's sort of a little bit of it's something I hear a lot. It's a Hans Zimmer trick that just is like, I've heard it too much. So that's the only thing that sort of pulled me out just a little bit, but still, in this context, it still felt great. So nice job.
Yeah, I enjoyed the piece, love your orchestration. I thought it showed a lot of maturity, and the mix was nice. Are you a James Horner fan?
Yeah, I like some James Horner.
Okay, I thought so. That's my only little critique I might have, is that it really sounded a lot like Avatar. If you haven't heard that score, or even Chance Thomas's score, which is also a really great score in that world, a little bit derivative. So I would maybe take a listen to that and then make just a couple tweaks to just differentiate yourself, from that. Because I mean, clearly you've established yourself that you can write in that style, but then you want to kind of push it into a newer direction there. Yeah, but it was really good.
I thought the beginning was super evocative right at the top, and I loved it. And then the way it just unfolded and blossomed the way it did was great. I thought it was really nice orchestration, and I thought that it was a great feel. So, great job.
Thank you guys so much.
Richard.
Vocals, super evocative. Anytime you have those kind of long notes with strings, I thought the writing was beautiful, but I think you really need to work the dynamics of your notes. Because, live playing will just give you, if it's done well, so much shape to those long notes, and it could become extremely flat unless you really overwork the dynamics. And that's such a, lyrical, evocative piece of music. I just think that you should just work those dynamics on the strings just to add some realism to try to evoke that. But I thought it was really nice.
Yeah, literally what you just said.
Yeah, it was great to hear the vocals. That was great. And some very striking high notes in there too. So, if there's anything, piano and strings together sometimes it can work well together when there's some unison things that are happening, but like sometimes it's almost like, yeah, if it's a string part, make it the strings. Don't have the piano do that. Have the piano do something contrapuntally different than what the strings are doing. That would be the only sort of production and compositional element I might want to suggest on that. But evocative was really nice, and the cool thing about having the live vocals is that that's where you get all your dynamics. So to some extent, you want to make sure, because with live recording, it's such a shock when you record live players to hear how much dynamic range there is, and how hard that is to get that dynamic range artificially through using samples and controllers. Like, as much as I try, I'm like, oh, that's got a lot of dynamic range, and then I hear it live, and it's like this. So you have to sometimes really over-exaggerate. And you draw shapes in your controller curves that look horrible, and you feel like, oh no, I got to make that very smooth. It's like, no, you can make it really violent. So I think if you were going to fix some of the MIDI string samples with some controller data, it could be really more powerful, I think. So match the vocal dynamics.
Thanks. Thanks.
Just confirming, Daryl, I think they told me that they weren't going to be here. Just making sure. And Ilya, we got to you.
Yeah.
All right.
Wow, you like John Williams, don't you? Yeah.
It was a bit of a tribute, actually.
Yeah, and you love Star Trek. Yeah. So so much interest. I could have listened to that probably 3 or 4 times because you took so many bold moves. And what I love is you modulated, you moved, you used, sort of non-standard motion, which is great. I like the wink and the nod to Star Trek, and I love your Williams footnote at the end, but it could also backfire on you too. So it's not like it did today. I thought it was really cool. It showed your maturity and your influence, but be careful with that. Because again, as tempting as it is to say like, look, I understand this and I can write it. Don't, or write it, but make sure that you move it out of the way. That's just my own opinion. These guys may feel differently, but I clearly could hear what you were tracking with, which is good. You listen and you've digested a lot of that vocabulary. But again, I think there was one or two other examples today. It just crossed over a little bit too much into aping something that you love, which can be dangerous if you're trying to be your own voice and be considered for your own creative work with a project.
I mean, look, it's terrific. I think you've got such a concentration of cool things, and I liked it very much. A lot of cool stuff there. But it's interesting because you take someone like John Williams, and I'm not a John Williams expert, but from what I've studied, it's like a lot of the times he's got a pretty simple idea, and then he'll decorate it and do cool things. But so I was getting all this window dressing, and it just seemed like it was, wow. I mean, it's almost like you had like a minute. I don't even know if you wrote it for this, but did you?
I wrote it especially for...
Okay, yeah. Because it feels like, well, I have this amount of time, and so I'm going to just cram it in. So it was all super cool, but it just seemed like it was throwing too many cool things at me at once.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed it. The references were...
It's like the plane.
Wow,
over.
I'm almost done, apparently. The references were clear and fun. One thing I would be careful of is the window dressing, gestural, orchestral things. You know, that you can not, you know, we can hit a key. We have a sample. It's the full woodwind, you know, octave sweeps and all of these flourishes. And we have all these great flourishes. But if you listen to how flourishes, gestural flourishes, are actually used in orchestral mixes and live orchestra, it's just there. It's just a little touch here and it's a touch there. And the sample is just, it's so big, and you really got to push that back because it is not the most important thing. So they started to get distracting to me. It was so, that, I think that's a little bit what Jason was saying, where it's a little kitchen sinky. It's like everything's being thrown at me and it's not all as important as you made it. So I think you could pull some of that stuff back. So, but other than that, I mean, it was fun to listen to. Yeah, cool.
Thank you.
Helene, I'm terrible with the accents. Wow. Oh. Okay, we made it through the demo derby. So for.
You do Q&A?
Yeah, I guess we could. We have like 7 minutes or so we could take a few questions. But I guess part of the big things that everybody here should kind of remember is you really are brave to come here and do this, to be able to present in front of all your peers.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you for doing this.
So congratulations for being able to do that. And yeah, let's take like maybe 1 or 2 questions. Does anyone have any?
Before we do a question, I just want to emphasize once again that I have a captive audience here. All the pieces I heard today, almost nothing had any sort of internal rubato. Nothing had rubato at phrases. There was no sense of like there's a fermata and a breath. So if you go back and start listening to Brahms and Beethoven and everybody who before sequencers, there's always rubato in all the performances and the recordings, and that's just the way it is. So if I would encourage all of you, like if I'm ever on this panel again and you want to bring something to I'd be thrilled if I heard rubato in the middle of something. I would immediately give you a winning sign.
Candy won that. Candy's in the audience there somewhere. Yeah.
Yes.
She got the rubato.
That's true, that's right. You got the win for the rubato.
She got the
Anyway, it's hard to do because our tools make it hard for us to do music that used to just be taken for granted, that you would have a rubato. So
Out of curiosity, like you guys have all been in positions where you've had to listen to so many demos for hiring, right? How many on average do you usually get per submission round? Is there like a decent average, or?
this isn't, I don't hire composers. So,
That'd probably
but
be for us. Or
Yeah, for
actually,
you too.
well, I'll be honest with all of you. We don't. Well,
haven't
my
you been
personally,
honest the whole time?
Yeah,
Okay.
but extra honest. Let me level with you. Ooh, there's a mystery there.
sorry.
You know, if I'm calling you, it's because we're in the final. Like, I want your sound. I've done a lot of research on you usually before, so there's not a whole lot of open, cattle call. Hopefully to find the needle in the haystack. So this is why we're at GDC. This is why I'm listening to your music now. It's why I just called Candy out in the middle of the audience, because you get on people's radar and it gets closer and closer and closer. And you want to build relationships, and you want to keep showing up, and you want to be brave, and you want to show your music, because then one day you're going to get a phone call, and if someone is calling you, that's pretty serious. You're already in the ballpark playing the game at that point. So I think that the idea that, as an audio director, we're like, give me 100 submissions. It doesn't usually work that way. We don't do a whole lot of unsolicited work. It's usually very targeted. And it takes time to just get on people's radar. That doesn't mean, become a creeper and harass people, but it just means find ways to represent your own work, develop your own brand, develop your own sound, and then use the opportunities like this, which is an amazing opportunity to kind of shine. there's a few people here in the audience who got a huge start in the industry from the demo derby because someone heard what they did and they were like, oh my gosh, I have to have it. So keep coming back, keep developing the relationships, and then, you know, that's how opportunities grow. Because I say this all the time, it's about trust. You know, it's not like, oh, your music's awesome, here is a massive franchise that I want you to do. It's like, I don't know you, and you don't know me. So you have to build that relationship over time.
Do you guys have any additional advice for anybody that's going into this, or maybe music tips to help them get a better demo? I know we did a lot of talking about that today. Do you have any like additional things that really stuck out to you?
Well, I guess,
I mean, you had a good one previously, right?
yeah. I would say the more you can reveal who you are as a composer rather than your facility at, it's almost like I want to take for granted that you have facility at production. I want to take for granted that you can listen to something and, you know, distill the style and do something in that style. But I also, for me, I would want to hear what is your personal voice? And it doesn't have to be super complex, it doesn't have to be bombastic, or it doesn't have to be in a specific style. So that's what I would always be looking for is your personal voice and taking me on some sort of an emotional journey through a piece. And you can do that in a minute, you can do it in 2 minutes. You don't need a lot of time to prove that up.
I think it's always good to try to put together, you know, very targeted demos. You know, learn the client you really want to write music for and make them feel like they're the most special place you really want to do stuff for them. You know exactly what they're working on as much as you can tell, and you target your demo exactly to that thing, as opposed to like, oh, here's everything. It's really good to have the very targeted approach. And yeah, developing relationships at GDC is really good too, because I mean, I haven't done nearly as much demo listening. Even back in the day when we used to do a lot of that, I wasn't in the position to do that. But you know, now that I have been, I mean, I'm never going through hundreds of submissions to try to find a good composer, because there's a lot of people that are throwing stuff out there to be listened to, and a lot of it's not very good. And so, you know, the problem is like it's very hard to rise to the top because there's so much noise in that situation. So, you know, the relationships you make are gigantic.
Yeah, and I guess just to add to that is, you know, you do take a risk, and you don't want to get to the point where you're like, hey, I'm going to throw my demo out there. I mean, you have to play a lot of games. You need to immerse yourself in a lot of meeting. You have to ask yourself the hard questions. You know, am I competitive? Because people ask me, how do I know if I'm good enough? I'm like, literally just pick up the latest game and play it. And if you think you can hang with that, then that's your answer. You don't need me or anyone up here to really tell you that either. But the danger is if you put something out and it needs more time, you know, then someone can potentially say, oh yeah, I remember you. You're, you know, it becomes a hand wave. You're the person who does this, or you're that guy who did that, or the person who did this, or whatever. So you have to constantly be reinforcing your own brand, but also find ways to grow and let everyone else know that you're not the person from 3 years ago, you're now in this other place. And, you know, it's a journey. And again, it is the relationships. I mean, it takes a lot of GDCs to kind of build that. But showing up is literally half the battle. If you keep showing up and everyone keeps seeing you, after a while, they're like, oh yeah, you're that person with that thing that does that thing.
The other thing I would add to this is that this is a game developers conference, and this is not a music conference, so it's not just about your compositional chops. When I was teaching, I remember talking to the instrumentalists, and I would say, yeah, you might be the best oboe player, but good luck, right? It's like if all you do is play oboe, you're probably going to have trouble. Well, all musicians and composers have trouble making a living. That's a given. But if you're an oboe player and you're a music copyist, or you're an oboe player and you know how to do some music programming, I mean, you become more and more valuable. This is a game conference, and we're not talking all about adaptive music. Everybody in this room who's a composer and that wants to do games, you should understand adaptive music. You should understand how to work with Wise or FMOD or all of these different tools that are out there, so you can take your music and make it so it can adapt to changing conditions of gameplay. This is an assumption that we all have to live with all the time. So it's not like we're just looking for the greatest composer ever. It's like, yeah, the greatest composer who also understands adaptive music is extra valuable. So you can learn that for free. You can just download Wise and go through it. And it's pretty cool how it can affect your music.
Great. Well, we are out of time. So thank you all for coming. You should be receiving or have received a survey. Please take the survey so we can get as much feedback as we can regarding the Demo Derby. And enjoy the rest of your GDC.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.